So, Nigerian Labour Congress NLC have suspended its nationwide planned strike that was supposed to start today. The strike is the protest of the hike in pump price of a fuel and electricity tariff. Report has it that there were indications that the federal government and NLC may have reached an agreement to avert the strike. Joining us now is Barrister Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, SAN. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show. So we're getting reports that they have obviously suspended the strike. They give it a 2 weeks ultimatum or 2 weeks period window for the government to implement what has been agreed. Could you help us confirm this?
Well, the government is saying that some committees have been set up to work out palliatives. The electricity tariffs or the increase has been postponed for 2 weeks, during which time some measures will be put in place to determine whether the tariffs were called for or not. But the government has only postponed the evil day. That's my understanding. The strike has been postponed for 2 weeks. I do not, with profound respect, trust the government. I do not believe that the government will implement the recommendations or the resolutions emanating from that meeting.
Right,
so
okay.
Yes, the strike will still take place. The civil society leadership will be in touch with both the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and TUC today. Because as far as we are concerned, there are certain developments that were not factored into the discussion. For instance, we do not accept the excuse of the government that there is no money to fund social services in our country. There is money to fund the rich. The government subsidizes the rich. So you can't say you cannot fund or subsidize the poor. Right now, about 380 companies and individuals are owing banks or AMCON 5.5 trillion naira. In December 2018, the Director General of Budget of the country, Mr. Akabuese, did announce that about the enterprises of the government, the CEO, he was addressing the CEOs of the enterprises of the agencies of the government, and they pointedly accused them of not remitting to the Federation account 10 trillion that year. We're also aware there are other areas where the government can mobilize funds to meet its responsibilities to the people. So for that reason, we would like to liaise with the leadership of Labour, arm them with information on the state of the economy, so that when they are meeting the government will be persuaded to shift its position.
Right.
Okay. And not insist on some rigidity of position. But you can't run a country whereby the IMF insists, go and remove the so-called subsidy, go and increase electricity tariff, without considering what has been spent and wasted on that sector. So we must ask questions instead of punishing the people all the time.
Okay,
right now, the discos are owing 500 billion naira. When are you going to collect the money?
So I agree with you, sir, that, we must ask questions. But at this time, at these policies that they've just brought out, the cost-reflective tariffs to, to allow discos float and get value instead of funding them or giving them grants, and paying subsidy to make life easier for the poor man and then enriching the already rich. Don't you agree that to take out all these costs is the best way to go at this time, while we continue to fight that they do the right things that you mentioned earlier?
No, unless the government is pushed, unless there is sufficient prayer mounted on the government, there is no way the Nigerian government will respect the wishes of Nigeria or respond to the crisis of poverty staring our people in the face. I cannot imagine. I can't imagine how people are coping in the country today in terms of sending their children to school, paying rents, skyrocketing rents, buying food items, and the government just simply says, please bear with us.
Barrister Falana, I need to be very clear what you're saying. Are you suggesting or saying that you agree that the government should continue to pay subsidy to this few whilst they then begin to fight the other rich?
Mariah, this regime claimed that subsidy was a fraud. The regime has always said there was no subsidy.
Yes.
And what you call subsidy is the importation of fuel into the country because of the irresponsibility of the government since 1999. The failure of the government to fix our refinery. You don't blame the poor for your own incompetence. And that is what is going on. So Nigeria is the only oil-producing country in the world that imports petroleum products. Just last night, the government is now saying, oh, we are going to fix the refineries. That has been the sing-song since 1999. They are always spending billions every year on turnaround maintenance. What has been turned around? The way forward is for the government to open up debates, consult with the Nigerian people, stop listening to agents and agents of IMF and World Bank.
I agree.
That have been put together in what you call economic team.
Okay.
You are listening to the same voices, cracking voice, the voice of IMF and World Bank. And that is why we are not making progress. The government has lost confidence in the Nigerian people. So we are saying promote debates so that these issues can come up, we can debate them and pass a resolution that will be in the interest of the country.
Yeah, but in the meantime,
don't tell me there are no alternatives.